everyone. Hello. Welcome back to White Lily Sisters ASMR. Today we are going to be doing facts on My Little Pony Generation 1 toys and movies. Basically kind of a summary factual video on the overall franchise of My Little Pony, just Generation 1 and a little bit of Generation 2. Let's get started. This story begins with the toy company Hasbro. Around the mid-1970s, Hasbro was on the brink of bankruptcy and needed to come up with the next big thing. At the time, their core product was G.I. Joe, and they catered more to boys' toys, and they didn't really have a girls' division of toys. They also had a preschool division too that needed to step up its game. There was a team that Hasbro had of research and development, and a man named George Dunsey became the senior VP of Advanced R&D at Hasbro. So they had a regular R&D and an advanced R&D team. There was a little tension because of that. Like, why did they need an advanced team? Why couldn't they all be together? So with George creating this advanced R&D team, he selected from the pool of 18 people that were in the regular R&D who all had various design talents. And he ended up choosing one other guy named Michael Cartabiano, who's an industrial designer and became the director of the advanced design at Hasbro. And together they had come up with an original idea of a pony toy. They had first thought of taking a horse and making it smaller and catering it to little girls, but it was rejected. Instead, they told them to try and aim it for preschoolers. So they went back to that idea, and instead of keeping it small, they made it a little bit bigger and chunky and had it have long hair to cater to hair play, because that was really popular amongst little girls' toys, was playing with hair. That ended up turning into My Pretty Pony.
My pretty pony, you can comb her hair. My pretty pony, and tie ribbons to show you care.
There was debate at the time of who is the original creator between George Dunsey and regular Hasbro R&D team member Bonnie Zackerly. She also had the same idea as George Dunsey, or was on the same thinking path as him. Who had the original thought first, I couldn't tell you, but she wanted to create a toy for little girls that was like a horse that could be played with like a doll, small and soft. She would say that little girls love horses, because she did too and would love to play with them. But they would tell her opposite, and that she was an oddity to the norm, and that little girls liked to iron, cook, and clean. She, of course, would beg to differ. So then Michael Cartabiano would also chime in and say that he was the father of My Little Pony. In the end, I feel they all had some hand in it, and together My Little Pony became a reality. So the story goes that Steve Schwartz, who was the VP of marketing at the time, he took home My Pretty Pony to his wife, to which she said, "It's okay, but needs to be smaller and softer to appeal to little girls." Which circles back to what Bonnie originally said as well. So Bonnie took My Pretty Pony and redrew it but smaller, and pitched the idea again, and it was a hit. There was also debate about the colors of the ponies, with Bonnie wanting them to be more natural colors, like horses. Browns, grays, blacks, pinto, that kind of thing. Senior designer Mo Patterson recommended trying the ponies in fantasy colors instead. To much of Bonnie's protest against it, the pastel-colored ponies won little girls' favor. This was the time the creators also felt the toy shifted from being a preschooler's toy to a little girl's toy. So with Bonnie putting her opinions and feelings of the pastel colors aside, she designed the 6 brightly pastel-color original ponies. She designed what she called their rump designs and named each one Snuzzle, Butterscotch, Bluebell, Minty, Blossom, and Cotton Candy. The pony Blossom was named after Bonnie's cat. And now, with the pony being smaller, they could expand upon its design and promote collectability. The pony's rump mark, later coined as cutie marks, also pushed for girls to collect with their varying symbols and designs. It played into the imagination of what each pony's personality was like based on those marks. And then units of the ponies were shipped to retailers in 1983. However, at that same time, Hasbro had just launched Charmkins, which are little charm-like figures that you can hook and hang on different things, like bracelets, necklaces, and keychains. It was presented as a girl's toy as well. Due to not really knowing how girls would react to My Little Pony, they also had Charmkins as a sort of fail-safe if My Little Pony didn't work. But what ended up happening was the opposite. My Little Pony was galloping into little girls' homes left and right, and sales were flying high. Ponies only sold for $2.99. I think now you can get them for $3.99 to $5.99 depending on where you're getting it from. For the re-releases, of course, if it's an authentic one from the 80s, it probably would sell for more. That year, 1983, Hasbro grossed in about $80 million plus in sales. With the high success of My Little Pony, Hasbro finally had a real girls division and needed to give it their full attention and start planning for what was next in the My Little Pony line. That involved toy sets in different species: unicorns, Pegasus ponies, sea ponies, etc. With My Little Pony now needing Hasbro's full attention, they rearranged their teams and designated one to a girls' team to put full force on making My Little Pony's line of toys. One gentleman named Kipra Nichols was part of that team, and he designed the first pony playset, as well as created Spike the Dragon. His background was mostly car design, which were not so cutesy toys, so this was a challenge for him, but one he overcame and conquered. My Little Pony Pretty Parlor was set, which included a brush and different hats for her to wear depending on what your pony was up to that day. There was a saddle and a little cat named Sprinkles, I believe, that could ride on the pony. It finally became clear that with clothes being introduced for the ponies, that little girls were indeed playing with them like dolls. But then it felt like, what is the story of My Little Pony? What are they trying to say? Who are they? What are they? What's their story? Other companies at the time were marketing their toys with entertainment, TV shows, movies, TV specials, which kind of became a staple thing for the whole selling of the toy package. So Hasbro hired two men that were known for helping with other Hasbro products and creating programs, Joe Bacall and Tom Griffin. So they took on to creating the story of My Little Pony. By spring of 1984, the story was ready with the animated special, Escape from Midnight Castle, Part 1, written by George Arthur Bloom. It was a 2-part television special, and then the following year in 1985, they released another television special called Escape from Katrina and Escape from Midnight Castle. This introduces us to the spunky, adventurous Pegasus pony, Firefly, as well as her human friend Megan. The show was kind of darker than what Hasbro team had in mind though. So, side note, Firefly is voiced by Sandy Duncan.
Hello. My name's Firefly. What's yours? You do know how to ride, I hope.
Who is also the voice of Vixie in Fox and the Hound. With these specials being a little too dark, they decided to create a movie that was a little more pony appropriate and lighthearted. Thus, the My Little Pony, the movie, was born in 1986 as a theatrical release. This movie grossed under $6 million in ticket sales in North America, and unfortunately did poorly on its overall debut, even with featuring the voice talents of Danny DeVito as the Grundle King.
Never fear, never doubt. Grundle's out to get you out. Must remember not to mention Grundleland. Oh, Grundleland! Grundlenumph.
Cloris Leachman as Hydia.
It's time to get tough. It's time to show those little ponies we mean business. It's time for the smooze. Doesn't matter. They can't stop the smooze. Nothing can stop the smooze.
And even Nancy Cartwright as Gusty, who, if you don't know, is Bart Simpson on The Simpsons.
Oh, I knew you shouldn't have come. Yeah, it is. You're bad luck. No, I'm stuck with it, big mouth.
This movie was animated by a South Korean animation studio called ACOM. Nelson Shin was the head of it, and they helped animate a lot of American animation shows, such as My Little Pony Tales, over 200 episodes of The Simpsons, and many more. In the case of My Little Pony the Movie, ACOM Studio was rushed and only spent 10 weeks on the movie's 300,000 cells, which is short for celluloid, a transparent sheet on which objects are drawn or painted for traditional hand-drawn animation. Japan's Toei Animation also had a hand in working on this production. Critics were pretty harsh on it, figuring out the method of promoting toy lines through films would say it was nothing compared to Disney, and it was too cutesy overall. The story was lacking in its ability to move or inspire young girls, and would be a drag for parents to have to sit there since there was nothing in it for them to latch onto or find funny. However, the movie still helped with the main thing it was made for, the toys, which brought on more development of different types of ponies and friends of the ponies, clothing, etc. So ponies like this kangaroo friend here. 3 months later, another animated series was made as a 2-part segment called My Little Pony and Friends, with it playing first, followed by another Hasbro show, such as the Glow Friends, Moon Dreamers, and the Potato Head Kids. It featured most aspects that had been introduced in the My Little Pony the Movie, such as Paradise Estate, and many main characters. The show ended in September of 1987 with a total of 65 episodes. Even though the critics for this were not good, I, as a little girl, loved it. I love this movie. I love the colors. I love the song that Megan sings. And even if the story isn't that deep and kind of silly, a little girl won't know any different. And I sure didn't. I mean, of course, that's why more of their toys sold. I remember renting this movie all the time when I was little from our home rental movie store. And it was my favorite. And when I got older, it was around when eBay was kind of the main thing. There wasn't Amazon yet, and I had a friend who had an eBay account, and he was able to get this VHS for me, because at the time, it wasn't released on DVD yet. So I was really happy that I got this and can relive the magic of it. And I always liked Mr. Moonchick and the ponies and the different colors. Wind Whistler was always my favorite pony. And then you got North Star here too. And of course, there's Lickety Split and Spike and Fizzy, who has sparkle in her eye. And I loved all the voices and the Bush Willies. They were funny and cute too. So I have a lot of fond memories of watching this. The series, not as much. I have seen some here and there. So I was glad when they finally released it on DVD so I could have the complete set. Some of the episodes are a little silly, but I really always liked the pony Mimic, who's in the series that you see. She's not in the movie. But yeah. The next series that came along was in 1992. The Disney Channel showcased 26 weekly episodes of the series My Little Pony Tales. The show revolves around 7 young female ponies who live in Ponyland. Their names are, I'm gonna try not to sing the song, Starlight, Sweetheart, Melody, Bright Eyes, Patch, and Clover, and Bonbon. Bonbon's making cookies, girls, so hurry up on over. Sorry. This series also introduced the first boy ponies that some of the girl ponies have love interests with. Their names are Teddy, Ace, and Lancer. The show revolves around the ponies' lives of going to school, hanging out at the ice cream shop, roller skating, dealing with family, or doing talent shows, and going on dates. Each episode consists of some sort of drama or a problem and is resolved by the end. So another side note that I wanted to voice, as previously discussed in our Barbie fact video, Kelly Sheridan is the voice of Barbie, Inuyasha. Willow Johnson is Kikyo in Inuyasha, and she voices Starlight, and I'm pretty sure she's the singing voice. It's like the complete opposite sounding voice from Kikyo, who's more deep and like stern, and this is like bright, bubbly, girly. So I just thought that was really interesting. And then here's another one. Brad Swaley, who's the voice of Light Yagami in Death Note, if anyone's familiar with that, is the voice of the Prince Charming pony, you could say. Ace. He's like the sporty jock, kind of like prince of the school. And of course there's a lot more voice actors too that I loved in this show that I liked hearing, but those were just the main ones that stuck out. Oddly enough, Hasbro never made any toys of My Little Pony Tales except for in European markets, which is weird, I guess, because they seem to explode more there than they did here. And it wasn't just ponies, but they also made comic books, an alarm clock, backpacks, and more. So back to the toy side of things. With the toys having such success, again, with this movie and everything, it started to kind of wear and tear on Hasbro to keep up each year with something better than the last. They were making over 100 million plus in sales every year. So around this time at the end of this series, which was still in 1992, ponies were nowhere on the shelves. It was a sad time, but it was time for them to be reinvented in 1997, and we got Gen 2. Here is an example of Gen 2. This is Ivy. As you can see, this pony's design is just completely different from what she was. A much smaller body and head, a little bit taller. She now shows her hooves, and she has a twinkle in her eye. They're smaller as well, just overall smaller. And it wasn't necessarily my favorite, but I loved the coloring of this pony particularly. And I'm sorry you can't see how beautiful her hair is, because I was one of those kids who just loved to play hairstylist and would cut all my ponies and Barbie's hairs. So this one is one of those that I destroyed. And yeah, she's a little scuffed up in places and whatnot. But I'm glad I still have her so I can show all of you today. And she has a little crown and a little bracelet. And she came with her own little cabinet for her jewelry and things to hang in. So, needless to say, this pony generation did not do well, and it died out by 1999. Gen 2 ponies didn't really have any other types or as many species as the first. There were some unicorn ponies, but no Pegasus ponies or any other pony species. The gimmick with these ones was that they had magnets in their hooves. I don't think this one does though, per se. Actually, yeah, this one, I think that is the magnet. And it was sort of used for more interactive playing, as well as with her leg moving and all that. So this one is obviously Ivy, I said, from 1997. And she's from the line Magic Motion Friends, which there was only 2 in this line. Her and, I believe, Sundance. And then I also had... I only have a piece of it left. I had the 1997 Pony Garden Palace. Pony Garden Play Case. And this is just the only piece that I have from it. I don't know what happened to the rest of the toy. If I was rough as a kid with my toys, so it could have broken apart or gotten in the water, who place in my heart because these are the ones I grew up with. Even though I wasn't born in the 80s, I was lucky enough to get hand-me-downs and from friends that didn't play with them anymore, that had older siblings that had them. And with the re-releases that came out, like the 35th anniversary, I was able to buy some. So I enjoyed growing up with them, and I loved the movies in the franchise. Outside of Gen 1, I only really liked a little bit of Gen 3, which we will be discussing in our next video, which is the line that she grew up with more. But after that, I don't really keep up with any My Little Pony stuff, because it's just not quite my style of art, and I don't know, I just don't really care for the new style of My Little Ponies. Gen 4 and 5. 5 is really weird. I'm sorry, the CGI. I really like hand-drawn animation. CGI has a place, but there's a charm about hand-drawn animation, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate and agree with me on. Overall, I think what always gravitated me towards liking this Generation 2 is a lot of the watercolor art that's on the packaging. When I was looking up pictures, I was like, oh my gosh, there's just so many that I love. It's the same with Care Bears too. A lot of that art from the 80s and 90s, it's just the charm of hand-drawn art. And I would have to say my favorite pony, this is the one that I've had since I was little, and I would say she's probably my favorite. Her name's